All right, what I'd like to do now is talk about the different file types in Monarch Desktop. Okay, so in Monarch Classic, there are essentially two file types. You have a Monarch project, and then you have a Monarch model. So we're actually going to start with the model. So the Monarch model, okay, what that does is it saves all of the steps, all of the work that you do to um, so all of you, the technical word is all of your work in a Monarch session, right? So it saves all of your templates. It saves all of your filters, your sorts, your calculated fields, what I call the internal lookups and your external lookups and your summaries. So the model is the heart and center of Monarch Classic, okay? Now, for those of you who've been working with Monarch Classic for some time, you've also realized that, hey, well, wait a second. When I want to export my data, um, I have to create a separate file called a Monarch project. And so what the Monarch project does is it saves all your work in related to a Monarch session, right? So what it does, it's kind of like a shortcut. It will save and remember, not it won't store the model, but it'll know where it's saved, where the model is saved. It'll save the most recently used files that you had in there, and then it will also save your export instructions. I also think it will save, there's another thing I think the project saves. Um, so I'm drawing a blank on it. Okay, so anyway, so in Classic, you had these two file types, the model and the project. And so the model does all the work, but then you realize, oh my goodness, now that I want to export this and save my export and make my export repeatable, I have to have a project file. Otherwise, someone's having to manually create their export each time if you don't save a project. Or just do a copy and paste, which is, I mean, there are times that works, but again, it just becomes a pretty manual process. Okay, now let's move to Data Prep Studio. In Data Prep Studio, you have four file types. Okay, you have the most important one being the workspace. Now, watch this. Now, in the workspace saves all of your work. It saves your models, your how you extract data from the different sources. It saves all your file types, all the different sources where they're coming from. It saves your summaries if you build them. It saves your filters, and it saves your export instructions that you set up. So right away, you can see that a workspace replaces model files and project files because everything gets saved in a workspace. Okay, so a workspace is really it's really most comprehensive thing. Now, a Monarch model from Classic can be imported into a workspace, and you can also import a Monarch project into a Monarch workspace. But when you do that, they become the standalone app, you know, of workspace. So in the workspace, it's now standalone. It's separated from your existing models and projects. Like you're not going to lose them. They're just now a copy of that work is now in the workspace. There are other file types in Data Prep Studio as well. You have something called the change list. So a change list saves all your different changes that you apply to a table. You can export those and import a change list. There's something called a data source. So with a data source, you can say the connection to a particular file that you or a data source that you use all the time. And so that's the .dpsv. And then there's a macro. And so a macro it's different from a change list, but it's like repeatable steps that you use within a table. Okay, so those are all the different file types that you have in Classic in Data Prep Studio. And you can always take your Classic model and project, import it into a workspace. You can't um, in essence, you can't take a workspace and go open it in Classic. You could, and I've tried this. It was pretty funny. Like I've tried, but what'll happen is it'll just open up as a table source, which is like, you know, it's kind of useless because you're not really going to be doing much with it. All right, that's it. That's it. So, all right. So next thing I believe we go through now is actually, oh, actually, this is an important topic. So we're going to talk about the server considerations in the next video.